Hey, 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 welcome to the Attic. Manadad here. We're going to open up Heads I Win, Tails You Lose, Secret Lair Commander deck. I got this about a week ago. I guess some people still haven't gotten there. So if you want to see what you're going to get when you finally get it, it's been more than a year since I ordered it and people ordered it from Secret Lair. So people have been upset about that. But it's finally here and it should be pretty cool. And we're also going to open, they sent these Kamigawa collector booster packs as an apology several months ago for it being delayed. And then if you stick around to the very end, I've been collecting a pile of cards for a Chaos deck since before they announced this thing. And um, we're gonna look through my pile of cards for a Chaos Commander deck and see if we can combine them with the cards in Heads I Win, Tails You Lose to make something interesting, or at least get some ideas. If you're going to build your own Heads I Win, Tails You Lose deck, and you might want to modify it. Some of the early reviews on Reddit said this deck kind of plays a little bit boring. There's a lot of coin flipping for not very much effect, but maybe that's what you want. It's not boring for you, but maybe boring for your playgroup. I don't know what the best way to tear off this foil is. Probably not the way I'm doing it. Probably should just cut through it. Anyway, if you watch this channel, you might have noticed I haven't posted for a couple weeks. I know there's been a lot of controversy about the Magic 30th stuff. I have a lot of opinions on that. I think everybody is basically wrong about that. Maybe one day I'll do a video and explain my whole reasoning on that. Okay, right off the bat, we get this card. Thank you for being a part of Secret Lair. Nothing on the back, but I guess you could use it as a token. Very thin, not full Magic card thickness here. Okay, and it comes wrapped. Get this box here. Definitely will be saving that. Could be used as a box for the cards. I don't know if it'll fit a fully sleeved deck or not. It looks like it will. Probably not a double sleeve deck. And we'll tear off this paper. It's like a wax paper. So this is the cool box that you'd like to have your thing fit in, but of course it's not big enough, I think, for sleeves. Look at that. Got Zndrsplt and Okaun here in a kind of thing. You got this nice thing. Very nice. Nice box. Not very sturdy particularly. I mean, I don't think you could throw it in your backpack and have it last for very long. It's kind of just the same bit of paper that you get with like a pre-release box or something. We got Life Spinner. And what is this? Flip Your Destiny. So they actually printed a nice booklet to go with this. I guess this is when they were still doing booklets. Flip a coin to determine your path. You might even find a cool spoiler for a future secret lair. Immediately looking at the bottom of the page is cheating. Okay. So maybe they're going to be you can flip Heads I Win, Tails You Lose. Okay. Won't read that whole thing. I guess you could have freeze framed it. And here's the famous coin that comes with this. I did see on Reddit that this coin is just like, it's a plastic with like a weight inside and it can crack open. But it's a pretty cool coin. If you're really into the flavor, I suppose this is the heads because it's got the eyeball face. Nice. And right at the top we have Zndrsplt, Eye of Wisdom, which is like a textless version. Okay. Well, I don't know what it does off the top of my head. Okay, these are just the thick foam core. The 2 pieces of art, Okaun, Eye of Chaos. Those are pretty nice. I guess that's just to have your little command zone there. And let's see, Zndrsplt. Did I get it to focus? Partner with Okaun, Eye of Chaos. It's a 1/4 for 5 mana. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, flip a coin until you lose a flip. Whenever a player wins a coin flip, draw a card. So expected value is half a card, probably. Or maybe a little more, right? Because if you get 2 cards sometimes. We got Okaun, Eye of Chaos, which is also 5 mana, so you're not going to be casting that for the same turn as Zndrsplt, at least not initially. Partners with, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, flip a coin until you lose a flip. Whenever a player wins a coin flip, double Okaun's power and toughness until end of turn. So obviously that's probably the less cast version. It's a Cyclops Berserker. Zndrsplt is homunculus. Foil, double-sided foil. So it does have the 2 different arts. It's just a slight curl. You'd think if they foil it on both sides, it would the curl would be reversed. Less chance of a curl. This is a beautiful propaganda. Foil. Hopefully you know what propaganda does. People have to pay 2 for each creature attacking you. Enchantment, Stitch in Time. This is classic one. If you win a flip, you get to take an extra turn. Spellslinger, whether you care whether you get the spell slinging trigger or the extra turn. Krark's Thumb. And of course, they made a Krark's Other Thumb, I think, since this deck was announced. It is a legendary artifact. If you would flip a coin, instead flip 2 coins and ignore 1. So it gives you double your chance of getting. This is basically the best card in the deck, right? So you have artifact searches, you grab that. Looks like the whole deck is going to be foil, which is too bad. I actually prefer non-foil myself. There you go. We got Blasphemous Act. Looks like the set symbols are all different original set symbols. This is from Commander, I guess the original Commander Legend, CMR. And they have the little tiny Planeswalker symbol on the bottom, so you can see that they're not the original printing. Duretti Scrap Savant, which is a Planeswalker that can also be your commander. And just discards and draws cards. I don't think it has much to do with randomness. Goblin Kaboomist, a 1/2 for 2, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you put an artifact named Landmine onto the battlefield with red. Sacrifice this artifact, deals 2 damage to target attacking creature without flying. Then you flip a coin, and if you lose the flip, it deals 2 damage to itself. So you're going to get 1 landmine out of it. And you might get more, depending on how you're doing with the flips. Ooh, Krark the Thumbless. Okay. This is one I would definitely have recommended adding if it wasn't there. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, return the spell to its hand. If you win the flip, copy the spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. So it's a good way to get lots of flips. And it does have partner. So you could partner with a blue partner and still run the deck and run that as a commander if you want. Fortunately, my webcam's ability to focus doesn't seem to be tremendous here. I'm not the most professional card opener on YouTube, but I hope you're enjoying yourselves. I'll speed this up a little bit. Nivmerzit Parun, Spark Double, Temple of Epiphany, Buried Ruin, Fabricate. So there's a good way to get Krark's Thumb. Search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, put it into your hand. Actually, I think a fairly valuable card, even though it's an uncommon. Fiery Gambit. This was from Mirrodin originally. Flip a coin until you lose a flip or choose to stop flipping. If you lose a flip, Fiery Gambit has no effect. If you win one or more flips, Fiery Gambit deals 3 damage to target creature. If you win 2 or more flips, Fiery Gambit deals 6 damage to each opponent. If you win 3 or more flips, draw 9 cards and untap all lands you control. And of course, with the ability to Krark's Thumb and win some flips and stuff, that's pretty good. Frenetic Sliver. All slivers have 0. If this creature is in play, flip a coin. If you win the flip, remove this creature from the game. Return to play under its owner's control at end of turn. If you lose the flip, sacrifice it. Of course, you can respond to your own flip a coin. So before any of the triggers resolve, you could just flip a ton of coins. Infinite coins. So there's some combos with that for sure. We got Goblin Archaeologist, red and a tap, flip a coin. If you win the flip, destroy target artifact and untap Goblin Archaeologist. If you lose the flip, sacrifice Goblin Archaeologist. Yeah, I didn't post a lot for 2 weeks. My whole family was sick, including myself. Brothers War came out. I was kind of behind on it. But my brother, who I've fought many a Brothers War with, has been enjoying it. He just almost went mythic in a day yesterday, playing limited. Catch him on Broby1 Kenobi _MTG on Twitch. Great Furnace, Artifact Land. Is it Boiler Works? Is it Signet? The newer art. I have all the old Ravnica Signets because my brother and I got a box of Ravnica, of each of the Ravnica sets when those came out. Karplusan Minotaur, cumulative upkeep, flip a coin. It's another way to get a lot of flips. And when you win a coin flip, it deals 1 damage to target creature or player. And when you lose a coin flip, it deals 1 damage to target creature or player of an opponent's choice, which is actually not bad in multiplayer, right? Because you might have an opponent who's willing to work with you and deal some damage to whoever's ahead. And believe me, you're not going to be the one ahead if you're playing a coin flip deck. Unless your pot is really low powered. We got Mind Stone, we got Myriad Landscape. So a lot of these are classic Negate, Path of Ancestry, classic commander cards, commander staples. I guess if you wanted a bunch of Is It commander staples, you could probably just get this deck. Ral Zarek, +1, tap target permanent, then untap another target permanent. -2, Ral Zarek deals 3 damage to target creature or player. And the -7, if you can get there, in commander, seems unlikely. Flip 5 coins, take an extra turn after this one for each coin that comes up heads. And doesn't say what set that's from, but I believe that's the Dragon's Maze symbol. Could be wrong. One of the Ravnica sets. Rogue's Passage, Swiftfoot Boots, Sword of Vengeance, Tavern Scoundrel from Modern Horizons 2. Whenever you win a coin flip, create 2 treasure tokens, and you can sacrifice a permanent to flip a coin. Sacrifice another permanent. Tribute Mage. So here's another way to pull out your Krark's Thumb. They've at least provided 2 ways to tutor it up, so that's good. Whisper Silk Cloak. And a lot of Battle Bond Islands here. I tell you, if you wanted a bunch of matched foil basics, this is not bad. Mountains, Battle Bond Mountains. Zndrsplt and Okaun, I believe, came from Battle Bond originally. Okay, now we're in non-foils. Okay, so maybe there are non-foil elements. Academy Ruins. Bloodsworn Steward, which is a 4/4 flying. Commander creatures you control get +2/+2 and have haste. That's from C17, which always needs more reprints. Boom Pile, flip a coin. If you win the flip, destroy all non-land permanents, which would include itself, I guess. So it's an unreliable board wipe. Cascade Bluffs, Chandra's Ignition, Chaos Warp, Commander's Plate. Hey, pretty sweet mythic. Desolate Lighthouse, Embercleave, another really sweet mythic. I believe this deck was $100 to buy. Certainly the value is there. Although they've reprinted some of these things since they announced it. Flamekin Village. Enters the battlefield, you may reveal an elemental card from your hand. If you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped, and you can use it to give stuff haste, which is nice. Gamble. Another way to go search up your best cards. And hopefully not discard them to the graveyard, but if you do, you got Goblin Engineer, which you can search your library for an artifact card, put it into your graveyard, and then you can eventually sacrifice an artifact to return the artifact back to the battlefield, and Inventor's Fair can do the same. Mirror March is fun, can flip a lot of coins and make tokens. If you've never played Mirror March in EDH, highly recommend it. Everybody gets into whether the flips are going to go or not. It's a good, fun for the whole table type card. It is 6 mana though. If you're not going to play that in CEDH, I don't think. Reshape, which lets you sacrifice an artifact and search your library for another artifact and put it onto the battlefield. Pretty nice. Seize the Day, untap target creature and get additional combat phase, and you can flash it back. Shadow Spear, another nice, valuable reprint there. Shivan Reef, Spine Rock and Knolls, Sulphur Falls. The Locust God. This is another good card. I actually almost just bought this card. I'm glad I didn't. It's 4/4 flying. Whenever you draw a card, you create a 1/1 blue insect, and hopefully you'll be drawing a card off Zndrsplt more frequently. And guess I'll just have to read it all to you. And whenever you draw a card, you create a 1/1 blue-red insect creature token with flying and haste. And for 4 mana, you can draw a card, then discard a card. And when it dies, you return it to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. So it is really hard to get rid of. It's a pretty strong commander. I've played against it. And basically like an exile on sight kind of commander. If anybody has an exile effect. Teleria West, you can transmute for something that costs 0. So I guess another land is usually what it's used to search up. But good reprint. Training Center. Whir of Invention, another way to get your artifact out of your deck. They really want you to be able to get the Crux Thumb on the battlefield. Yusri, Fortune's Flame, MH2. This is a fun one. Whenever it attacks, you choose a number between 1 and 5, flip that many coins. For each flip you win, draw a card. For each flip you lose, it deals 2 damage to you. If you won 5 flips this way, you may cast spells from your hand this turn without paying their mana cost. So we have some ways to cheat on the coin flips that will increase our chances of being able to do that. Arcane Signet. Getting 5 is a lot. Chance Encounter. Whenever you win a coin flip, put a luck counter on Chance Encounter. At the beginning of your upkeep, if Chance Encounter has 10 or more luck counters on it, you win the game. So I have a friend who has all the win the game things he can cram into one commander deck. In one commander deck, it's pretty fun. Command Tower. That would go in there nicely if he doesn't have it already. I'm pretty sure he does. Crooked Scales. 4 and tap, costs 4 to put out. Choose target creature you control and target creature an opponent controls. Flip a coin. If you win the flip, destroy the creature the opponent controls. If you lose the flip, destroy the creature you control, unless you pay 3 and reflip the coin. So, I mean, not too bad if you have a tokens or things that you don't mind losing, or you have sacrifice triggers. Footfall Crater. That's an easy one to take out of the deck, but it's actually probably an underrated card. But still. 4 mana enchantment, Impulsive Maneuvers. Whenever a creature attacks, flip a coin. If you win the flip, the next time that creature would deal combat damage this turn, it deals double that damage. If you lose the flip, the next time the creature would deal combat damage, prevent that damage. So just a bit of chaos, adds a bit of chaos to the board. That's a good one for my chaos deck. Long-term plan, search your library for a card, shuffle your library, put that card 3rd from the top. So another way to get Crux Thumb, although very slowly. It is an instant, which is nice. We saw we have a couple counter spells in here you can hold up, and then if you don't need them, you fire off your long-term plans. Mog Assassin, a 2/1. Tap, flip a coin. If you win the flip, destroy target creature an opponent controls. Otherwise, destroy target creature of that opponent's choice. The color looks kind of off there. That's not what the color was like. What set is that with the bridge? One of the Urza sets or something. Muddle the Mixture. Transmutes to go find your Krark's Thumb. Planar Chaos. At the beginning of your upkeep, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, sacrifice Planar Chaos. Whenever a player plays a spell, that player flips a coin. If they lose the flip, counter that spell. So, Chaos deck thing just makes everybody's stuff they don't know if it's going to resolve or not. Ponder and Preordain. Just a little bit of hand smoothing, it looks like. We got the Reliquary Tower, in case you're drawing so many cards from flipping all those coins. Risky Move. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player gains control of Risky Move. When you gain control of Risky Move from another player, choose a creature you control and an opponent. Flip a coin. If you lose the flip, that opponent gains control of that creature. So you have to possibly hand over a creature. Huh. Maybe you'd play that in a deck with no creatures. Sakashima the Imposter. This was another one that has needed reprints. I think we just got a reprint not too long ago. But it is a legendary creature. It's a 3/1, but it comes into play and you can choose a creature in play. And if you do, it comes into play as a copy of that creature, except its name is still Sakashima the Imposter. It's still legendary. And it gains 2 blue, return Sakashima the Imposter to its owner's hand at end of turn. So you can bounce it back and replay it and copy something else later too. Serum Visions, slip through space. Target creature can't be blocked, draw cards. So a bunch of these like just cheap blue cantrip things. Interesting. Soul Ring. Couldn't give us a foil Soul Ring, I see. Squeeze Revenge, sorcery, 1, a blue, and a red. Choose a number. Flip a coin that many times or until you lose a flip, whichever comes first. If you win all the flips, draw 2 cards for each flip. Well, there's probably mathematicians out there. Leave a comment. What's the optimal amount of flips? We got Talisman of Creativity. Temple of the False God. They're always putting that in these decks. I wish they wouldn't. Teamer Battle Rage. Target creature gains double strike until end of turn. Ferocious. That creature also gains trample until end of turn if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, which you might if you got Okaun on the battlefield with a doubled up power and toughness. And Vandal Blast, another commander staple here. And this is our bonus card for the deck. It is a mountain. Looks like I think they made mountains and islands. This mountain is cool. It's a mountain, but it's also like looks like a hand flipping a coin. Or a hand coming up out of the mountain to flip the coin. It is foil. And we got the reminder of the phases. And we got some tokens. We got a copy. Oh, got the landmine token. That's cool. Copy. Also a landmine. A copy landmine. Copy landmine. Treasure insect. I'm guessing these will all be treasure insects. Treasure insect, and treasure Duretti emblem. They fooled you on the last one. Whenever an artifact is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, return that card to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. Okay, well, that was cool. What do we get? Tails. Heads. Looks pretty sturdy, but you can see there's a bit of a seam right here. So let's open the Kamigawa boosters. see what else we got for our money and our long time waiting. Can't remember if it was after that Secret Lair stopped charging you until they actually shipped the product. I think a lot of people were doing chargebacks. Well, if I can open this, is there a little like tear in it? Pretty well glued. All right, we got a pilot token and samurai token, Imperial Subduer, Papercraft Decoy, Dokuchi Silencer, Replication Specialist, Boseiju Reaches Skyward, Sweet Foil Land, Guardians of Oboro, Peerless Samurai, Inkrise Infiltrator, Dokuchi Silencer, and the foil showcase treatment. Greasefang, just a regular foil Greasefang, but great card from the set. I was almost able to trade for one at pre-release, but the person wanted to keep it, and they were wise to do so. Turned out to be a Pioneer hero. Collision of Realms. This must be a commander-only card, because I don't even know. Each player shuffles all creatures they own into their library. Each player who's shuffled a non-token creature into their library this way reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a creature card, then puts that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of their library in a random order. So you only get one creature back. Each player who shuffled a non-token. Oh, good chaos card though. That should go in our pile of chaos cards. And another rare, Kyodai, Soul of Kamigawa. And Biting Palm Ninja. And Ishin, Two Heavens is One. Nice full art foil. All right. I'm not sure what the big hits are in these collector boosters. These are quite expensive. Not as expensive as the 30th anniversary Magic stuff. With wrappers, yeah. Spell Pierce, Iron Hoofbore, Narika Yamazaki, Mech Hanger, Akiba Reckoner Raid. There's another cool foil mountain. Heir of the Ancient Fang, Seven-Tail Mentor, Prosperous Thief, Shadow Walker. This is cool. I was thinking of building a ninja deck here. We got a nice Nashi Moon Sage's Scion there. Kaima the Fractured Calm. It is a spirit. Inventive Iteration. This could actually go in the deck, right? It returns an artifact from your graveyard to your hand. In case people are out there removing your Krark's Thumb. Reckoner Bankbuster. Great card. I haven't even seen this treatment here. It's got like rats riding on a mech or something. That's crazy. March of Burgeoning Life. One of the worst rares they printed in a long time. Instant speed, green and an X. As an additional cost to cast the spell, you can exile green cards. And then you choose a creature with mana value less than X. Search your library for a creature card with the same name as that creature and put it on the battlefield tapped. So terrible. I tried to make it work with like 7 dwarves on Arena, and I couldn't ever get it to do anything good, even though the dwarves get bigger the more dwarves there are. And it's like one of the few decks where you can reliably have a creature, a bunch of copies of a creature. Anyways, there's a nice spirit / treasure token. Okay. As the plane flies over, bring over my pile of chaos cards. It's a pretty big pile. So if you're bored and you didn't realize on YouTube you can just double tap to skip ahead, do know that you can do that. And you can leave a comment while you're waiting for me to get this set up. Here we go. Collision of Realms, as you know, I just put that there. We got Wild Magic Surge. I have the ones on top are going to be more recent cards. So this is from CLB. That's Commander Legends B, I guess, the second Commander Legends. Destroy target permanent an opponent controls. Its controller reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a permanent card that shares a card type with that permanent, and they put that on the battlefield. So it's kind of a Chaos Warp, but a little more fair. Definitely gives that moment. What I want to create with my Chaos deck is not necessarily just Chaos, because then nobody will ever play against it, but lots of cards that create that lean-in moment of like, hey, what's going to happen? You know? And I guess my lighting is just too strong here. Try turning it down. See if you can see the cards. Will's Reversal. Choose target spell or ability with one or more targets. Roll a d20. Add the greatest power among creatures you control. 1 through 14, you can choose new targets for that spell or ability. And 15 plus, you can choose new targets for that spell or ability, and you get to copy it. You can choose new targets with copy. So these deflection effects in red are always much better than you think in Commander, and so that's why it's in my consider pile. I've got from Unfinity, I got a Clown Car. When it enters, you roll a 6-sided die, and for each odd, roll X 6-sided die. It costs X to cast. For each odd result, you get a 1/1 Clown Robot artifact, and for each even result, you put a +1/+1 counter on the Clown Car. So, just a good way to pay a mana for each time you're rolling a die for things that care about rolling die, of which I might go, or I might go in the coin flipping direction. Like, there's definitely enough coin flip cards in the history of Magic to support it. Vidalcan Squirrel Whacker. It's 3 and a blue. It's a Vidalcan Guest. Power and toughness is ***, and we're going to derive that from rolling a 6-sided die twice. Its base power becomes the first result, and its base toughness becomes the second result. And if we would roll one or more 6-sided dice, instead we roll them, and we may exchange one result with its base power or base toughness. So it's a very minor way to cheat on rolling 6-sided die. Also got a Comet Stellar Pup here, which has a 0. It's a Planeswalker, and it has a 0 activation. Roll a 6-sided die, and then it can do a bunch of things depending on what you roll. One of them adds loyalty. Starts with 5 loyalty. Collision of Realms. Did I already have that on there? Looks like I did. Okay. Well, I don't need the full art version. Vexing Puzzle Box is another one I considered. It's whenever you roll one or more dice, you put that number of charge counters on Vexing Puzzle Box, and it's a mana rock for 3 that also rolls a d20. So it's a good way. As you add mana, you're building up your puzzle box. Goblin Trap Runner. Whenever it attacks, you flip 3 coins. For each flip you win, create a 1/1 red goblin creature token that's attacking. That is 4 mana to play a 4/2. So, here's Swerve. Here's just the basic. Change the target of a spell with a single target. Just creates a little chaos in the game, but in a fun way. People thought they were going to do something. Ruhan of the Fomori. This is one that I considered because I was actually thinking of doing a blue, white, and red, aka Jeskai deck. This is a 7/7 giant warrior, and the chaos element of this is at the beginning of combat on your turn, you choose an opponent at random, and it attacks that player if able. So that's the of course, I'd have plenty of dice in the deck, so that's possible commander here. So as you hit white cards, you can keep that in mind, as that was something I was thinking. We'll use 3 Fortune's Flame, which we got in the deck. Pramikon Sky Rampart. This is just more practical. It's a blue, a white, and a red for a 1/5 wall, and then you choose left or right, and then only people on that side of you can attack you, so that gives you a little bit more staying power in a chaos deck, and also kind of mess up the game. If the person they wanted to attack, they can't attack. We got a Volatile Rig, which is a 4/4 for 4 with trample. Attacks each turn if able, and if it's dealt damage, you flip a coin. If you lose the flip, you have to sacrifice it. And when it dies, you also flip a coin, and if you lose that flip, it deals 4 damage to each creature and each player. So maybe a little incentive for them not to deal damage to it. Wild Research. So this is another one. You need white. It's a 3 mana enchantment. For 1 and a white, you search your library for an enchantment card, reveal that card, put it into your hand, discard a card at random from your hand. And for 1 and a blue, you can search your library for an instant card, reveal that card, put it into your hand, then discard at random from your hand. So repeatable tutor. Kind of crazy. Psychic Battle is an enchantment. Whenever a player chooses 1 or more targets, each player reveals the top card of his or her library. The player who reveals the card with the highest converted mana cost may change the target or targets. If 2 or more cards are tied, the targets remain unchanged. So before they announced the deck, I had an Okaun and I had a Zndrsplt, just as if you want to see what the regular art looks like for those. If I hold it like up close to the camera. I just can't focus that closely. Let me get my other camera going rather than repurposing my webcam. Chaos Sphere. Creatures with flying cannot block creatures without flying, and creatures without flying can block creatures with flying. That's pretty fun, and it has chaos in the name, like Chaotic Goo. 0/0 Ooze. It comes into play with 3 +1/+1 counters, and during your upkeep, you may flip a coin. If you win the flip, you add a +1/+1 counter. Otherwise, you remove a +1/+1 counter. Another expensive way to generate flips. Possibility Storm. This is a card a lot of people hate. I might not put this in, but it's a 5 mana enchantment. Whenever a player casts a spell from his or her hand, that player exiles and exiles cards on top of his or her library until they exile a card that shares a card type, and you can cast the card without paying its mana cost. Then put all cards exiled with Possibility Storm on the bottom in a random order. So you don't get what you cast, you get some other thing that's like what you cast. I had a Ralzeric in the deck there. I had a Gamble. I had a Chance Encounter. I had a Crux Thumb. See, I had a lot of this in the deck. Goblin Festival, 2 mana enchantment, pay 2. Goblin Festival deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Flip a coin. If you lose the flip, choose one of your opponents. That player gains control of Goblin Festival. Kind of fun. Wheel of Fate is a cheaper Wheel of Fortune. So prize deployment. So this is if you're looking for white cards that kind of have a bit of chaos, you can play a non-white creature from your hand and then return it. So it's just a little white sneak attack, 4 mana instant. Jeskai Ascendancy. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. You untap those creatures, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. Mana Clash. I actually played this in a deck when I was a kid. You and target opponent each flip a coin. It deals 1 damage to any player whose coin comes up tails, and you repeat the process until both players get heads at the same time. So you can actually deal a lot of damage just by sheer luck. Daxos of Melodis. Narset Enlightened Master. I got a weird signed version here, it looks like. But when it attacks, you exile the top 4 cards of your library until end of turn. You may cast non-creature cards exiled with Narset this turn without paying their mana costs. Pretty good card. This is a bit hard to get in. 6 mana, by the time you get it down, a first strike. 3/2 first strike might be a little bit outclassed on board. Got a Dawn Charm. We got Odds and Ends, which is another reason I was thinking of getting white in here, because you get odds. A blue and a red, flip a coin. If it comes up heads, counter target instant or sorcery. If it comes up tails, copy that spell and you get new target. You can choose new targets. And then the end side, target player sacrifices 2 attacking creatures. Which could actually be quite useful. Days Undoing, Stitch in Time. There's the original. Guild Pact. Erratic Mutation. Choose target creature. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-land card. That creature gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the card's converted mana cost. You put them all on the bottom. Probably not that powerful. Counterbalance. This is another one people get annoyed by. Whenever an opponent plays a spell, you may reveal the top card of your library. If you do, counter that spell if it has the same converted mana cost as the revealed card. And everybody just has to take a chance. Of course, if you have ways of putting cards on the top of your library, like Scroll Rack or something, it becomes really obnoxious. Whims of the Fate. Starting with you, each player separates all permanents he or she controls into 3 piles. Then each player chooses one of his or her piles at random and sacrifices those permanents. We got a Tali, which can attack and place cards off other people's libraries. Great commander card. They put it in a lot of commander decks nowadays. Throes of Chaos. That has chaos in the name. And it's just a 4-mana Cascade with Retrace, so you can play it again. Goblin Game. This is a silly card. Each player hides at least one object. Then all players reveal them simultaneously. Each player loses life equal to the number of objects they revealed. The player who revealed the fewest objects then loses half their life rounded up. If 2 or more players are tied for the fewest, each loses half their life rounded up. Proteus Staff. This is not a silver border, not an uncard. Proteus Staff, 2 and a blue. There's some combos with this. Tap, put target creature on the bottom of its owner's library. That creature's controller reveals cards until they reveal a creature card. Player puts that card into play and the rest on the bottom of the library in any order. Plays the ability anytime you can play a sorcery. Great combo with Fibblethip if it's the only creature in your deck. Thieves Auction. Let's read Pixie Guide. So here's one. If you would roll 1 or more dice, instead roll that many dice plus 1, ignore the lowest. So it's like a Krark's thumb for dice rolling. Stolen Strategy. 4 and a red. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile top card of each opponent's library. Until end of turn, you may cast non-land cards from among those exiled cards, and you may spend mana, silver mana, of any color to cast those spells. Of course, any Chaos deck needs an Anarchist, which is a 2/2, brings back a sorcery. Chance Encounter. I think we already saw that one. I think I set that aside more than once. Chaos Warp. Game of Chaos. Goblin Artisans. So this is a 1/1. This is a reprint. This is Chronicles, but it was originally in Antiquities, as you can see. Tap. Use this ability only when you cast target artifact spell. Play this ability as an interrupt, which was the old version of instance that could affect the stack. Flip a coin. Target opponent calls heads or tails while coin is in the air. If the flip ends in your favor, draw a card. Otherwise, counter your artifact spell. More than one Goblin's Artisan's ability cannot target the same artifact spell. And Risky Move. 3 red, red, red. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player gains control of Risky Move. Oh yeah, we saw this one. There's the original. Orcish Librarian. You take the top 8 cards of your library, remove 4 of them at random, and put the remaining 4 on in any order. Soldier of Fortune. Can force a player to shuffle their library. Just kind of on flavor. Warp World. Glimpse of Tomorrow. Sorcerer's Strongbox. 2 tap. Flip a coin. If you win the flip, sacrifice Sorcerer's Strongbox and draw 3 cards. Two-Headed Giant. Whenever Two-Headed Giant attacks, flip 2 coins. If both coins come up heads, Two-Headed Giant gains double strike. If both coins come up tails, Two-Headed Giant gains menace. Dangerous Wager. Sounds like we got another plane going over here. Curse of Chaos. Whenever a player attacks an enchanted player with 1 or more creatures, that attacking player may discard a card. If they do, they get to draw a card. Fortune Thief. Damage that would reduce your life total to less than 1 reduces it to 1 instead. And it's a morph creature. Morphs up for 2 red, for red, red. Mirror March. Tide of War. Whenever 1 or more creatures blocks, flip a coin. If you win the flip, defending player sacrifices all blocking creatures. Otherwise, the attacking player sacrifices the blocked creatures. If you win the flip, the defending player sacrifices all blocking creatures. Otherwise, the attacking player sacrifices the blocked creatures. Yeah. Weird. Grip of Chaos. Whenever a spell or ability is put onto the stack, reselect its target at random if it has a single target. This is really hard to resolve. I'd be really careful about putting this in your deck. It is 6 mana to get out, though. It would be kind of a crazy game. I got a foil Brutal Expulsion, which is a 2 blue-red devoid card, and I can return a spell or creature to its owner's hand, or deal 2 damage to target creature or planeswalker And if it would put it into the graveyard, it goes into exile instead. Looks like it's from a pre-release from September 26th, 27th of 2015. I was not in the game at that time, so this is a pickup. I had a Spark Double in my version of the deck. I had Shenanigans, so the Vandal Blast, Ricochet Trap, which is another spell changing the targets, Faithless Looting, Experimental Frenzy, Mad Blind Mountain. So red and tap, shuffle your library, play this ability only if you control 2 or more red permanents. And it does count as a mountain. Never see that card. Is it Boiler Works? And I got a bunch of old border mountains here set aside to use in the deck. And presumably some old border islands and plains, I guess not. Ignite Memories. Target player reveals a card at random from their hand. Ignite Memories deals damage equal to that player equal to the card's converted mana cost, and it has Storm, of course. This was a tournament card at one time. I've got Tybalt the Fiend Blooded, everybody's least favorite planeswalker. Red. It's a 2 loyalty planeswalker, +1, draw a card, discard a card at random. And then for -4, it deals damage equal to the number of cards in target player's hand to that player. And for -6, gain control of all creatures until end of turn. Untap them, they gain haste until end of turn. Mind Moil. This is an enchantment from Ravnica, the original Ravnica. Whenever you play a spell, put the cards in your hand on the bottom of your library in any order, then draw that many cards. So it's just creates chaos for yourself. Gives you some serious card selection. It is 5 mana. Adderstaff Boggart. When Adderstaff Boggart comes into play, clash with an opponent. If you win, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Again, just a little creature with some randomness. Winds of Change. All players shuffle their hands into their libraries, draw the same number of cards they originally held. Of course, you're down a card, so your opponent's you're like losing 3 cards to that. Riddle of Lightning. 3 red. Instant. Choose target creature or player. Scry 3. Then reveal the top card of your library. Riddle of Lightning deals damage equal to that card's converted mana cost to that creature or player. A little bit chaotic. Wild Worm. When Wild Worm comes into play, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, return Wild Worm to its owner's hand. And it's a 5/4 for 4 mana. It's kind of a fun old card. I'd be like, oh, cool if somebody played that. Orcish Captain, a 1 mana 1/1 orc. For 1, you choose target orc, flip a coin. Opponent calls heads or tails while the coin is in the air. If the flip ends in your favor, that orc gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Otherwise, that orc gets -0, -2. And you can see this card is actually played. I played that in I had an orc deck around the time of Fallen Empires. I'm sure it was terrible, as any deck that had Fallen Empires cards would be. Goblin Liar. This is from Ice Age. This is another one from my original collection. So you 0, sacrifice Goblin Liar, flip a coin. Target opponent calls heads or tails while the coin is in the air. We'd have to check the official text, because usually the sacrifice is part of the activation cost, but it's not listed as that way here. But I'm pretty sure they would have errated that. Anyways, if the flip ends in your favor, Goblin Liar deals star damage to opponent, where star is equal to the number of creatures you control. Otherwise, it deals star damage to you, where star is equal to the number of creatures the opponent controls. They're terrible, terrible card, but it does have a coin flip. Kindle the Carnage. Discard a card at random. If you do, Kindle the Carnage deals damage equal to that card's converted mana cost to each creature. You may repeat this process any number of times. Mijai Djinn. Anybody remember this guy? If you choose to attack with Mijai Djinn, flip a coin immediately after the attack is announced. Opponent calls heads or tails while the coin is in the air. If the flip ends in opponent's favor, Mijai Djinn is tapped but does not attack. And we got a Molten Sentry. Comes into play, flip a coin. The coin comes up head. It's a 5/2. With haste, if it's tails, it's a 2/5 with Defender. Kind of fun. That was a rare, too. 4 mana. Maybe you get a Defender. Goblin Kites. 2 mana enchantment. For a red, target creature you control, which cannot have toughness greater than 2, gains flying until end of turn. Other effects may be later used to increase the creature's toughness. At end of turn, flip a coin. Opponent calls heads or tails with the coin in the air. If the flip ends in the opponent's favor, bury that creature. Fireball. Disintegrate. Hopefully you know what these do. Classic cards. Fissure. Chaos Moon. Oh man, this has so much text. You can see the Ice Age had the Chaos Lord and the Chaos Moon. During each player's upkeep, count the number of permanents. If that number is odd, all red creatures get +1/+1, and mountains produce an additional red when tapped for mana at the end of the turn. If the number is even, all red creatures get -1/-1, and mountains produce colorless mana instead of their normal mana until end of turn. I have played with this. This is actually really fun. It's kind of annoying to have to count permanents, but once you know how many permanents are on the board, then you're just tracking plus or minus, and you might like desperately be trying to add a permanent or lose a permanent, and other people are doing the same to try and like stop your Chaos Moon from being good. So it's so crazy. Similar with Chaos Lord, it can attack the first turn it comes into play on a side. I'm sure that's eroded to just haste, and except the first turn it comes into play. And then during your upkeep, count the number of permanents. If that number is even, target opponent gains control of Chaos Lord. The permanent counting Chaos. Chaos Harlequin. 4 mana, 2/4. For a red, remove the top card of your library from the game. If that card is a land, it gets -4/-0. Otherwise, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Brothers of Fire. So if you're running more than a third lands, your EV is negative on the Chaos Harlequin. Brothers of Fire deals 1 damage to target creature or player and 1 damage to you for 3 mana. Bottle of Suleiman. 4 mana. This is another classic one. 1, sacrifice Bottle of Suleiman, flip a coin. Target opponent calls heads or tails while coin is in the air. If the flip ends in opponent's favor, Bottle of Suleiman deals 5 damage to you. Otherwise, put a Djinn token into play. Treat this token as a 5/5 artifact creature with flying. Definitely played a lot of Bottle of Suleimans in my day. The chance of getting that 5/5 flyer is always pretty good. Never mind that sometimes you didn't get it. And that's pretty bad. Erratic Cyclops, 0/8 trample. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, it gets +X/+0 until end of turn with X is its spell's converted mana cost. That's just there for flavor, I guess, because it's an erratic Cyclops. We got Form of the Dinosaur, because this is just a crazy card. When it enters the battlefield, your life total becomes 15. At the beginning of your upkeep, it deals 15 damage to target creature an opponent controls, and that creature deals damage equal to its power to you. And we got a Dragon Mage. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, each player discards their hand and draws 7 cards, so each player wheels. Rowdy Crew, which is a human pirate. 3/3 trample. When it enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards at random. If 2 cards share a card type or discard this way, put 2 +1/+1 counters on Rowdy Crew. Aura Flux. Each other enchantment gains during your upkeep, pay 2 or sacrifice this enchantment. So a little bit of enchantment removal for blue-red. Desertion. Gotta love the Richard Kane Ferguson art for Desertion. Counter target spell. If it's an artifact or creature card, you get it. Whirlpool Rider. When Whirlpool Rider comes into play, shuffle cards from your hand in your library and draw that many cards. So you get to do a little mini loot session there. When Whirlpool Rider enters the battlefield, shuffle cards. Oh wait, this is a Whirlpool Warrior. Okay. Yeah, so this is similar, but you can pay red. Sacrifice Whirlpool Warrior. Each player shuffles cards from his or her hand into his or her library, then draws that many cards. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining me here in the attic and sitting through all that. If you did sit through all that, leave a hashtag with hashtag heads or hashtag tails. And leave it now. Call it. Uh-oh. All right. Heads or tails? Blue or red? What did you leave in your hashtag? If you said blue, you win. And if you said red, you win as well. Because heads I win, tails you lose. That's it. I will leave you with my catchphrase. Remember, Magic is a game so fun, even dads can enjoy it. Adios.